President Trump finally calls out Attorney General Pam Bondi for her ineffectiveness in prosecuting what he calls as obviously guilty politicians. Vice President Kamala Harris gets some backlash from a tweet she posted back in 2019. CNN finally decides to call out the Democratic Party for their hypocrisy, and Van Jones of the same network reveals something incredible about the late Charlie Kirk. We've got a lot to talk about, but real quick, make a difference today by liking this video and subscribing to the Civic Trigger.
Donald Trump is calling out his own Attorney General, Pam Bondi, for a lack of legal action by the DOJ in prosecuting his own perceived enemies. He posted just last hour, quote, "Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia, question mark, question mark, question mark? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility."
Now I understand the frustration that the president has with Bondi. We have to face facts that she's been all talk since she was placed as AG. I also acknowledge that these are people that the president doesn't exactly like, but I do support a proper investigation to actually show if they're guilty or not. I also have to be honest here. Bondi announcing the Epstein list and then suddenly saying it doesn't exist doesn't sit well with me, because that's the kind of talk that can destroy your credibility with the people. Speaking of which, former Vice President Kamala Harris doesn't have as much credibility as she did before, and thanks to Elon Musk, it looks as if she's almost at zero. Democrats have been talking about Jimmy Kimmel's show getting suspended, with many of them saying that it's against the First Amendment. But then you remember what Harris tweeted back in 2019. It says right here, she was calling for Donald Trump to be suspended from Twitter. Let's not forget, Democrats called for the censorship of social media sites first.
You can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation, and that has to stop.
This hypocrisy was too much even for CNN, because Abby Phillip had to come out and say, come on guys, you know that you started this trend of canceling people. Now that it's happening to one of them, they claim that it's unfair.
I heard earlier this week Ezra Klein and Ross Douthat having a conversation, and there was this moment where Ezra says, you know, I probably needed to acknowledge back a couple of years ago that we were a little too censorious, that the left was actually interested in kind of intimidating
something
people.
More liberals should say.
I think it would help.
They should acknowledge, not just in passing, but actively acknowledge where things went wrong. That's the only way to move forward.
Agreed.
I think, in a way.
But
because otherwise,
what would we acknowledge?
Well, I think you have to acknowledge that there is listen, cancel culture was a thing.
Absolutely.
Okay? It was actually a thing. And it's not just enough to say, well, my cancel culture was fine, but yours is wrong. There has to be an acknowledgement that now I think everybody understands what free speech really looks like and what it means. And then you have to apply that thinking to what was happening 4, 5, 6 years ago in this country and say something about it.
Thank you, Abby Phillip. That's where we have to stand, for both sides to actually agree on something. And that's why Charlie Kirk was so important to many of us. He was the guy who was willing to speak to the other side without prejudice, to speak from a point of respect. And yet you have politicians like AOC who continue to attack him even in death.
His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans, far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution.
Are any of you surprised that AOC would say something like this? I will tell you what's surprising. CNN's Van Jones spoke out about Charlie Kirk, revealing that he had reached out to Jones a day before he was killed.
This is extraordinary. So this was received the day before he was killed.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we were beefing. We were going at it online, on air. And then after he died, after he was murdered, my team called and said, Van, he was trying to reach you, man. What? And what was he doing? Dialogue. Let's be gentlemen together. He says, let's disagree agreeably. So I'm sitting on this and I'm watching the whole country talk about civil war, censorship, justifying murder about this guy? This guy is reaching out to his mortal enemy saying we need to be gentlemen, sit down together and disagree agreeably. And the next day he's killed. And I've sat on it long enough and I just said, you know what? We're going to Memorial Weekend for this man. We disagree. Everybody knows we were not friends, okay, at all. But you praise the good when it's time to memorialize somebody. And what he did, and I didn't even know it, was good. He was not for censorship. He was not for civil war. He was not for violence. He was for dialogue, open debate and dialogue, even with me. Even with me.
To disagree respectfully and keep the communication open between both sides. That is very important. Now, I see some of the comments that are left on my videos. To be honest, I appreciate that. I appreciate the way you see things. We may not always agree, but that's okay, because that can only lead to better dialogue between us. But of course, I want to leave the judgment to you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments about this video. And before I go, please don't forget, drop a like and subscribe to keep yourself informed. Thanks for watching. Talk to you in the next one.